Go.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. I am here today with Julie Ashby, and it's the my first interview for the group Own Your Past, Build Your Future. And I'm so excited to be with Julie today because she really exemplifies everything I'm trying to do in this group, and just really getting together a group of women, like-minded women who have a past, any past. We all have issues that hold us back during the day, be it pain, anger, shame, guilt, fear. And how do you move through that so you can break it up and release it and really step into who you are and what you want to do with your life? And my hope is to showcase women who've done just, amazing, have lived amazing lives and have really overcome quite a bit in their past. And I met Julie a few years back, and she seems to be just the perfect person to talk to right now. She's also a good friend. But with all the uh, famous suicide, what is the word I'm looking at? The actors' suicides that are in the news right now, Julie has lived through this of a close family member. And in trying to escape her pain, she literally traveled around the world and did very exciting jobs in different areas of the world and really built her life. But it wasn't really until she started doing the actual work to release the things in her life that were giving her that anger, shame, guilt, that she really started to step in and expand and enjoy and manifest and all those wonderful things. So I want to introduce Julie Ashby, and thank you so much for being here. And I'm so excited to hear your story today.
Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. And you?
I'm great. Thanks. I'm in Sydney, Australia. And we're in the dead of winter at the moment. So,
well, that's good to know because we're having our first nice day here.
yeah, I'm ready to come back to the States. Come back for the summer.
I had just actually seen Julie in January of this year in New York.
Yep.
So part of the fun of connecting with other women is to actually connect with them face to face and to really get to know who they are. And it's been so awesome getting to know you. So love to hear a little bit about your story.
Yeah. So where would you like to begin?
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about what made you want to leave Sydney and travel around, and how did you end up in LA working for Fox News and all of the exciting things you've done? If maybe you could just give us a basis of what got you started in your traveling. And
absolutely. Yeah, thank you. I was lucky. I guess I went on my first flight when I was 6 months old because my parents are from the UK and I was born in Australia. So that's when I kind of started traveling, and I think it was just, destined, right? And I think I'd always knew I wanted to, be a speaker and be a writer and kind of and help people. And I kind of started out in, creative kind of, magazine world and advertising and that type of thing. But there was just this constant monkey on my back, like, why aren't you a writer? Why aren't you a speaker? And I just kind of put everything into my career early on in my life. From 19, I was working, full time in media, very much entrenched in that. And my parents had, my father had died when I was young and when I was 19, and my mum had kind of, checked out of the family for say. So I really made a lot of career decisions based on how can I chase that security? Like, how can I chase that safety? And in doing so, put my creativity and those intuitive downloads of, I guess, life purpose just on the back burner, because I thought, well, it just doesn't feel safe. I can't trust it. It's not secure. I, don't have anyone to take care of me. Like, all the fear of abandonment, all that type of thing was with me. And then
19 is really young to get that started.
It's a pivotal age in our timeline. So for those of you that have done, timeline work, you'll know that it's kind of age 7 and then a teenage year, and then around 19 is when it really, our brain is shaped and makes a lot of decisions about, the downloads we receive in the world and the decisions we make. So it's really that make or break age. Who am I going to be as an adult? And, when I was approaching 30, I just thought, I'm still living this life and these decisions based on, what my parents had done and hadn't done, and also as that scared 19-year-old who just didn't have the emotional capacity to really back herself with a lot of courage back then, because I was just operating from, well, how can I stay safe? Like, how am I going to take care of myself? How am I going to, pay my bills, that type of thing. And I just got to the point where I'm like, I'm just done with this. Like, I'm going to.
So you were truly alone. You were really alone.
I very much felt like that. And that was definitely my biggest belief. And, in the 10 plus years I've done personal development full time, that fear of abandonment for sure was the biggest operator, which would block all forms of receiving, which is, very common for some people. It's an unconscious thing. But yeah, I just thought, well, I'm just sick of, not living the person I was supposed to be. And it just, it really meant, physically removing myself from my environment, and going and living in other countries. I mean, I'd always traveled. I traveled as much as I could. You get your 4 weeks of holiday when you're an employee type of thing. But this was different. This was like, I'm going to uproot my entire life and go on an adventure and not know how it's going to work out. I mean, I had goals in mind to live in, the States and live in New York and stuff. But so it was really, I really threw it out there. So I was about 30, I think, 31. Maybe.
Did you know someone, or did you just up and decide it was time?
No, I mean, I'd kind of
crossed the continent.
Yeah. No, I traveled back and forth quite a few times, just as like a tourist. But no, this was pretty much just a one-way adventure. And, we'll say, back then, because that's what, maybe not 10 years ago, it was a while ago, 2010, so 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah, it was definitely anxiety fueled because when our physical survival and safety needs are rocked, it causes a lot of anxiety, right? So it was a constant kind of, how do I feel safe? But I also had a plan. I was like, I'm going to, I'd been in media for so long at that point. I was like, I'm going to go work in the States in television. I can get this type of visa. I'll get this type of sponsorship. Even though it had never been, technically done before, I thought, well, I'll just be the person that, changes that and basically makes that happen. And I just had to, really just, that decision was made and I just had to believe it. And I had to block out any people or energy that would tell me otherwise, that it was impossible and that I was, a dreamer, basically.
So what was your first job out in LA? You ended up in LA, is that right?
Yeah, so exactly. Yeah, so I ended up getting sponsored by Fox Studios. So I was on the Fox lot. So I was like just in like a senior management position on like audiences and research and that type of thing. So my background was it's been about 20 years in media. So lots of advertising and then the network television side as well. Yeah.
So you obviously really built quite a career for yourself.
Yeah, I really put everything into it because, a lot of women, I'm sure, can relate to this. It's just that overachiever scenario, which is, well, it'll never be enough. Everything has to be over prepared. Even to the point of what I put into my education, it was like, it actually got to the point where I had to stop because I had a list this long of, certificates and then trainings and that type of thing. But it was like, okay, well, you're putting all your time and money into being, the student, you have to then transition into the teacher. And, when you're putting everything into education at that level, you're also you can be a bit broke in the process because it costs a lot of money to give yourself a six-figure education when you're also trying to work and live in the Western world. Exactly.
Oh, sure. Yes. Without a doubt. I mean, it's really impressive that you started at 19 and built this up to this. From where you were in Sydney at 19 years old to across the globe working at Fox and really building this. So how did it feel? How were you feeling at the time?
I mean, I felt like, oh, okay, finally, I've got my dream job. That'll take care of the uncomfortable feeling I had, which was, but you're still not a writer and you're still not a speaker, which is what happens so much of the time. We build ourselves up and our mind convinces us that, oh, this isn't the actual thing that I've known since what I wanted to do since I was 5, but it's a plan B. It's a really shiny, pretty version. Oh, if you just work, in Hollywood and your office is on Avenue of the Stars and you have a, fancy credit card and whatever, that'll be fine. And it's not, right? Because your mind will try and convince you, but your soul knows the truth. You know when you're lying to yourself. You know when plan B is plan B and it's not, your zone of genius. So I remember, just walking into my dream job after a very long period of like 7 months of visas and all the kind of bullshit that goes with trying to be sponsored, and my soul just kind of died on the first day. And I went, so much has gone into getting me this, in terms of just there was a lot of people involved because I hadn't done it before, and I just, on the inside, I was dead. I went, this isn't what I want to do. Like, I can't lie to myself anymore. And that's when, when I was living in LA, that's when personal development started. That's when I got my ass to to seminars and went through like the Landmark program, because I had to go, what is it? Like, what is this calling? I didn't understand that it was fear. I literally did not know that the only reason that I wasn't a writer and a speaker is because I was afraid. I literally didn't know that. Like, now it's, for us that are in this world, well, yeah, that's obviously the most obvious thing. But I just didn't know. Like, I pretended that I didn't know. So it was just quite mind-blowing and a punch in the face to go, the reason you don't have everything you want is all pretty versions of fear of not being good enough at it. And I was like,
so I just want to understand. You were in your dream job, making great money, living in a beautiful location, at a beautiful offices, but it still wasn't feeling right. You still felt as though, this is it? What is this feeling? And so then you went to look for more and found out what it was.
I just had to find the truth. The truth was, I'd known since I was, 5 years old, and that I'm going to, be on stage and be a writer and help people. There was no such thing as, oh, I'm born to be, a life coach, because that's not it, right? That's just like a coat we wear. Anyone, and this is a problem with the industry out there, people wanting to just be coaches and get into the doing, rather than, well, what's your actual being? Like, what is it what is your essence? Like, what is your expression, your creative expression that you need to do? Then you can be an amazing mentor and coach and example, because you have completely stood and tapped into that power. So it was more about, how do I learn to let that creativity come out? How do I learn to just sit down and do the writing that I was never scared to do as a child? And, the creativity comes from suppressing emotions. And so part of the things I had to learn was how to start feeling your emotions again. In the household I grew up,
did you say start or stop? I wasn't sure.
Start, like, actually, sorry, my accent. Start to actually feel emotions, right? The household I grew up in, we never, ever, ever spoke about anything. And there was some stuff that should have been talked about, like my father committing suicide at 19 years old, my mum kind of, checking out. All the layers of just trauma and, bullshit that went with that was never spoken about. The model was, oh, let's just be strong and get on with it. And everyone around me would go, wow, you're so strong, you're so strong. It's like, well, no, I was just extremely smart at like suppressing everything. And well, guess what? You push that crap down into your nervous system long enough, gets into your cells. It's impossible to be creative. It's impossible to trust yourself or back yourself. So there had to be a complete reprogramming of learning how to feel safe, to feel, like, to literally feel emotions, to literally understand what the grid of emotional, scale is. Because it's impossible to write a blog or a video or even speak up for your own needs when you can't feel anything. Mm-hmm. Creativity has to have a place of,
and so when you're holding that all in,
clean channel.
Right. And when you're holding that all in, there's other things that happen. Your health, you stop sleeping,
Absolutely.
You start questioning, and did you know what that was before you went to the Landmark course? Did you know that you could channel that through fear? Or was that kind of the time you realized that you were holding it all in?
I think that we ultimately do know, but we just pretend to not know and not see what we're not doing, because the alternative is then, I actually have to face my stuff. So, my personal first scenario was Landmark and the leadership stuff. And the first seminar I ever went to was 40 hours. Like, I didn't, go, like, I went hardcore, right? So it was quite life-changing. And then from there, it was like the realizations and the breakthroughs were just every day. I mean, it was literally like my brain was just exploding. And I was like, oh my God, my whole life makes sense now. The timelines, the guilt, how I had, taken on all the responsibility, how I'd pushed everything down, how I had chosen security and safety over creativity. I mean, all of it just kind of makes sense. And I'm not here plugging Landmark, because I'm not saying that's the only way. That was just, my experience, right? But, once I had those realizations, then my entire life like kind of fell apart. I got laid off from my job at Fox with all these changes. Not only did I lose my job, I also lost my visa, so right to live in the country that I had been living in for many years. And the universe was like, finally, she's doing something about this, so we're really going to get her attention, and we're going to just pull everything out from under you for me to go, okay, like, I'm listening. I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to rewrite this timeline and this career path and all these decisions. And I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I promise that I will. And when I was on that runway, leaving LA, because I had to like literally leave. I made my deal with the universe. I was bawling my eyes out, and I was like, this is bad. This is bad. I'm devastated, but I promise you that I will be back here. I will live here again, and I will help the other people that were in corporate America that were operating under the same fear. And, and I made that deal and I made that promise. And then, ever since, I've just been, in essence, working on and towards, fulfilling that. Because I know it's my destiny.
It sounds to me as though it's like the floodgates all opened at once. You started feeling the feelings, you lost your job, you had to, fly. It's like everything happens at the same time.
Yeah.
Including what your purpose was, to help other people to do the same thing and not go through some of the pain, or at least to release the pain that you had gone through.
Yeah, it was it was a bit terrifying, because I didn't know back then about, everything happens for you, not to you. I was definitely in a bit of, this is happening to me and this is a lot. There was a glimmer that knew better, that this is an overall big picture divine timing plan. But it was very traumatic for like the first few months.
So what kind of things did you do then? I mean, it's just the idea of all that happening at once, and you being alone and flying back to Sydney. I mean, I can feel it all right here. So what did you do to start shifting and releasing and helping yourself to grow into that next area?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. There was no mummy or daddy waiting for me at the airport. It was like, shit, yeah, I don't really have anything to come back to. So I went to New Zealand for about 2 weeks, just to do like Bikram yoga and hikes by myself, because I was like, this is bad, but something this kind of on a scale of this much change would not happen for a bigger reason. So I literally went to Bikram every day. I walked up and down this mountain and I prayed to the universe. I was like, I need you to send me some answers and some next steps, because right now my brain's still in a little bit of shutdown mode, and I'm not sure, but I'm not going to lose faith. So that was quite miraculous, and what I needed came through, which was to move to a new city, which was Melbourne, got a contract in TV, went back to Landmark, but I wasn't feeling it. And then on the way walking home, I was like, and then I saw this building, the Coaching Institute, which I didn't know there was coaching school. But in my mind, I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I just want to get the best absolute education possible, because this is back before there was internet coaches and like there was nothing. I didn't know anything about it.
Right.
I just knew that I need some structure. I need an environment that's going to manage my fear. And if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the best educated one that I can, so that I know I'm in integrity for me, and that whatever happens, that I'll always have that, you know. So I just put everything into my education. I just, got my master prac and did a whole other bunch of, trainings and certificates. And then things really shifted when I kind of discovered the more spiritual side, like through Hay House. So through Hay House and Wayne Dyer, I'd kind of heard those things and names, and I was into like yoga and meditation, but I was very resistant, I guess, of the woo. Not resistant, it just hadn't reached me yet.
So what were some of the things you did in woo that really started making a big difference? What was the work that shifted you?
Sorry. I started listening. I just started listening to incredible amounts of audio and books that, because my education was really like the kind of Tony Robbins, masculine side, which was everything's, mindset and responsibility and all that type of thing, which is true. It was when I mixed them together, when I really just started listening and connecting to things that made sense to me. And, my number one mentors, of all time are Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay, and, who I got to, speak with and stuff before they both passed. And that it just made sense to me. It spoke to my soul, and just everything that I did for my health and my mental health and my thought process, and it got into my nervous system, because not everything is mindset. Like, mindset is everything, but it's your nervous system, and it's the DNA, and it's the cells, and it's what they remember. It's how they feel. It's their response to everything. And so it's getting into that, and that's when everything changes for people, well, for me and for my clients, because it's about how you feel. It's about how you feel. And your cells, there's 37 trillion of them in there, and they're smart and they remember everything, and so when we're able to master how to reprogram them, that's when you can truly, let go of the past. That's when that's when things can really be different. Does that make sense?
Yes, that was a great explanation. Thank you. Can you, from my own knowledge, tell us a little bit, some specifics of how you start doing that?
Definitely.
Shifting the DMNA and really deep diving in there?
I think that, well, the number one thing is definitely, which is going to sound really simple, but it has to start with meditation, and it has to start with breathing. Because when we're in I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm unclear, or I'm stuck, or any of those negative, fearful emotions, even like desire and wanting things, we hold everything in, we hold our breath. And it has to start with like pummeling as much fresh oxygen into that. Just constantly like changing your state, like yoga and things like that. So that's like, step one, beginner.
For me, starts just shifting the energy right there.
Exactly. Shifting the energy right there, just starting to like feel better, those cells will remember everything. If you fill them with fat, then they're just going to want more fat. If you fill them with, more loving, peaceful, joyful vibes, then they're going to remember that. I think what really was a game changer for me, I mean, I would just boot camp my mind and nervous system. Like in the beginning, when I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was just I didn't know, like, everything I'm speaking about now, I didn't know that that's what I was doing, right? I just knew that it was my nervous system that was more jacked up than my head, and my head was, pretty jacked up, to be honest. I really, like, I went on an Abraham Hicks, boot camp where I would listen to it when I was working, even for, 8 hours a day, just anything to reset my nervous system. I did incredible amounts of tapping. I was up at 4 a.m. throughout an Australian winter with the tapping coach, just, tapping and releasing a lot of emotion. That really was quite a game changer for me. And I think Reiki as well. So I'm probably jumping ahead. I recently got trained and certified twice in Reiki, but when I started working with more healers and shamans and really learning and understanding what soul retrieval meant, which was, what are the little pieces of you that were broken when you were little, that you kind of attached onto your parents, that still have to call back to you, in essence, trauma. I don't know if I'm making sense now. I'm getting like really like off the.
Well, it makes sense to me. And when I think of your story, how do you come to terms with that when you've been cut off from your parents? So I mean, it makes perfect sense that that's where you started digging into.
Yeah, like, I think what most people will relate to, the way I explain it, is if you've been through trauma and your parents either left you or didn't fulfill the emotional needs that you needed as an empathetic child, which a lot of people in this community will be, like, you're the black sheep in the family, or you felt more than everybody, or it was somehow your responsibility to take care of everybody else, or you were blamed for things. There is a part of you that was available for that. There was a part of you that, as a soul, chose these parents and chose this life because you were on a mission, like you're a light worker. But then there comes a point where there's part of you has been missing or carrying everyone else's stuff for so long that it is then impossible to really step into what it is you need to do. And it comes to, okay, do I have permission to, in essence, cut some of these cords? Can I still love and honor my parents or their memory in heaven and not have to carry their soul's tortured pain? It was really like I had to go on that journey, especially with my father, because he died, he committed suicide on Christmas Day. And so and it's been 20 years now, so I'm at peace with it. But every Christmas I would literally relive his symptoms that happened that day. And I'd feel all these things. And I knew that I felt like, I'm going to have to do that forever because of the guilt and the blame I had around not stopping him. Like, I just was really trying to understand. And I just got to the point where I had let go of so many negative emotions. I had so much permission inside of me to question it and go, well, this doesn't change the fact that he is dead. He's probably not really appreciating me also, like, seeing me do that. And it just doesn't change anything. Can I still do this legacy work and honor him and not have to suffer so much?
Well, I can feel this. That is quite heavy stuff that you've had to do and had to go through to get to this point. And
I think that, I think it's permission. I think it comes down to guilt, as you were talking about, which I'm sure your audience will understand. That the light workers or the empaths, whatever you want to call us, because we're all the same. We feel an incredible amount of responsibility to carry the emotional dysfunction of past generations, and to understand that was their journey, and that we somehow, I mean, if you believe this, Wayne Dyer taught me this and I believe it. I believe we choose our parents. I believe as a soul we have different choices about what we sign up for, and I believe we choose them, because at the end of the day, the whole lesson is, well, what journey am I going to take in this life towards unconditional love of myself? And for us, it's like our souls are little martyrs, and they go, yeah, let me choose some really dysfunctional, complicated, traumatic scenarios, because when we made those choices, we were just at a place of, like, it was just like from a higher decision-making process. It wasn't the human. And so we get in here as humans and go, wow, like, why don't my parents love me? Why did my parents leave me? Why am I, going through addiction? Like, all the things that we go through, because they're all lessons and obstacles to show us there is still more of you to love. There is still more of you to heal. And getting to that way of thinking versus, how it was 20 years ago, well, it's just such a greater understanding. It just gives you so much more peace, and it just makes you realize that they're all lessons in love. Like, they're all just blocks to love,
And just you saying that right there is probably, this whole series is what I want to portray to people, is it really is all just a lesson in love. What did I learn through this experience that brought me to now? And how do I release the things that are holding parts of our soul back? And how do you do that? That's just amazing. Really, your whole journey.
Thank you. I mean, it's really about, sorry. I was going to say, it's really about rewriting. You have permission to rewrite your own timelines. This is, this is super high level, spiritual and mindset work, but it's what is available to us, and it's not walking around doing affirmations or investing in business strategies and all that bullshit. It's like, okay, how do I actually change the emotional response and story that my cells have around periods of my life? Because when you're not carrying that anymore, then that's how you have a clean slate. That's how you let go of the past, not by, I don't know, busying yourself with more stuff. It just doesn't. Right. It just doesn't work. I mean, I've tried it all, so it was.
You've tried to get away from it all, and my favorite is, it's not about positivity either.
No, because you can, you're right. Affirmations on their own are a false positive,
right?
Because you have to believe it and feel it.
So you've done all this work. You've brought yourself to this place now, and I'm just so thrilled. But you've also taken some big leaps of faith. And, even in the last couple of years since I've met you, and, just if we can round it all off by being in this new zone of who you are, it's allowed you, I think, to really take some of these leaps. Can you maybe just talk a little bit about some of that?
Yeah, of course. I think, probably the last 6 months was, excuse me, sorry. Probably the last 6 months was one of the craziest ones that I took. So that was literally like a spiritually guided, you're going on some kind of world adventure with literally no plan, which is just wrapped up, and figuring out, my next step to go again, basically. But it was really just spirit pushing me, going, there's going to have to be some more upgrades, but you can't do it as a normal person in Sydney. Like, it has to be, you have to go move to Bali, and you have to just go on all this kind of adventure. So I was so scared. I mean, I left so when we're doing this interview, it's June 2018. I left in October 2017. The decision had been made probably like a few months prior. But I was so anxious. I was so scared. I was just like, I was getting pushed out, but I'm like, I'm not safe. Like, I'm not ready. I don't know really what's ahead of me. And I just every day would like pray for signs and ways to like heal my anxiety over it, because the build up was just like, oh God. And I just remember, because I always really tune into Wayne Dyer's energy, and he passed on the 30th of August. And whenever it's the date of his anniversary, I tend to ask him, like, what is it that I really need to see around this, or what is it I need to do? And that night I went home and it was the death of his anniversary, and I was just like getting these messages, you need to sit on your bed and do tapping, and you need to do all this Louise Hay forgiveness work. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. But I did it. And I swear she was in the room with me. I was in Sydney. I'm like, this is very unusual. And anyway, I went to sleep and then wake up at 5:30, and then during the night, Louise Hay had passed away. She died the same day as Wayne Dyer. And I was like, whoa. I was like, okay, she really wanted me to get a message around, forgiveness. And in essence, I felt like she passed the baton to me, which she would have passed it to a lot of people. I mean, I'm sure you can get pretty busy while you're transitioning, right? But I thought she's made that effort to do it to me. I've felt like I was part of the Hay House family, for the last 4 years. I know a lot of people through there. I went, okay, like this is getting more and more clear to me now. In essence, I was, I just felt like I was more supported. So, I'm writing a whole book about this because there's so much stuff. But in essence, the journey was a few months in Bali, got really trained up in Reiki, and really just started to get in tune and understand what it means to feel abundant and how to have the universe support you with no business strategy or marketing plan or anything. Like I just didn't. And I just did everything that I was kind of guided to do, which was to show up every day and write, speak, share my message. Obviously I had one-on-one clients and stuff like that. And then, I went to the States and oh gosh, I mean, ascension, for those of you that know what ascension means, when you kind of go through all that awakening, it takes you all the way up and it takes you all the way down as well. The lightness you experience, there's also all the darkness that goes with that and all the fears and all the past life stuff. And I had to, basically relive all this traveling alone. But it's taken me apart and put me back together, that the emotional range I've had is like, I've experienced it all, but it actually also feels impossible to tap into any old fears or anxieties anymore. It's like you have to go through that stuff to clear it. And it's terrifying, but also you get at the other side, you're like, I'm now always going to be okay, because leaders go first and we have to live through it and survive it so you can teach it, right?
That was just so fabulous that you have to live through it and experience it all over again to get through it and to move on. Now you know what you're going to do, and it's just who you are, and you've come through. It's just an amazing story.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm so excited to now, just share that more. I'm just kind of getting, my keynote out about it and book and stuff, just so that it can teach people what, truth, faith and courage is, and I think how to feel safe during all those lessons, and the permission that they need to, let go of that guilt and to start letting creativity out.
So what are you going to be doing with all that going forward?
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, no, I'm excited. So there's a few things in the pipeline at the moment. So in terms of my business, I'll have some keynote things coming out, and with my book that'll be coming out. And then being back in the States, I'm just building something. I've just got a kind of corporate partnership that I'm working on at the moment, just to help people within corporate America and Australia, obviously, but America's the priority, because there's a lot more pain in corporate America. There's a lot more fear. And so that's kind of on my project side. And then in terms of my client side, in my business, if anyone's interested, I'm just about to launch a fresh new one-on-one scenario. So it'll be for 4 months one-on-one, and there'll be 10 corporate women together. So it's all private work, but then you'll also have access to each other as an ongoing basis. So that's going to be launching this month. So I'm just about to start amping that up, and just doing live streams and videos about it, just to kind of let you know what it is we're working on if it calls you. So if you see this and that does, you can just send me a message on Facebook, and we can just jump on a call.
It sounds absolutely fabulous, your new group, and much needed as well. And I just want to add that I can't wait for your book to come out.
Aww.
And your keynote, for that matter. Absolutely fascinating, Julie. And I'm just so happy for you. And you know, everything you've gone through has not only taught you so much, but when you share it, I think we talked about this yesterday when we talked about, you know, just coming online and doing this together, is that when you share your story, it not only allows people to share theirs, but, you know, we all see different things in our own stories. And so I really, really appreciate that you took the time to do this. And because, you know, it brought out a lot more for me in my own story and what I need to do next, and how do I help other people go forward. And I hope that everybody who's listening also gets that from you, and private messages you to talk about your new course and stuff.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
yeah.
that. You know, if anyone does feel like, wow, I'm hearing that, sometimes we do need validation. Like sometimes we do need to hear it from somebody else, or have someone else go first. And anything that you feel like you're resonating in me, well, it's because it's in you also. It's impossible to see something in someone else that isn't already inside of you, right? So all of it's always about just giving people, I guess, that permission and courage. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think I just kind of want to mention is that you didn't need to go through the exact same experiences that Julie went through in order to have some of these same things hold you back, and the same emotions and feelings that you now need to live through. You know, we feel different. We feel a lot of similar things, but with different experiences attached to them.
Exactly. Because it's not the context. It's about like what we make it mean. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think there was a part of me that was also so available to be constantly taken all the way down. It was like there was a part of me that went, oh, I have to like do this. It has to be so traumatic and so much drama. And then I actually went, what if I start learning all my lessons around survival that just have more grace and ease to them? And it just like occurred to me, and I went, oh, okay, maybe I can start asking for that. So you also can also decide what you're available for, right?
Right.
Even though it might feel like, wow, there's, you know, trauma or all these things, you can also not be available for things to be so like up and down. But, you know, I'm nearly 40, so that's taken like a long time to like get to that point.
Okay,
right?
well, so you're a youngster. You're still really young with a lot more to go, and I'm really excited to hear all about what's happening the next time we talk. So,
Thank you.
yeah, fabulous. Best wishes on everything. Your new course, your book, your keynote, you. It's always so great to talk with you.
You too. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, thank
All
you,
right.
Julie. It was so good to see you too. I'll talk with you soon.
Talk to you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.